This is episode 55, Born on the 4th of July. Today, July 4th, is the birthday of the United States of America. It's also the birthday of 142 service members whose names are on the wall at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. This is the story of one of them, Dennis Lobbezoo of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Dennis, or Denny as he was sometimes called, was born on July 4th, 1948, and was killed in action on June 6th, 1968. His name is on the wall at panel 59 West, line 6. Denny was a Marine, and he was engaged to be married when he died. I spoke with his then-fiancée, Joyce Washburn, who joined me via Zoom from her home in Grand Rapids. Is Joyce Washburn your married name?
Yes.
And what was your maiden name?
My last name was Skinner.
Skinner. Okay. So you were Joyce Skinner in
Yes.
Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yeah, that was
Growing up.
that was me.
Mm-hmm.
I live about 2.5 miles from where I grew up.
Okay.
I haven't gone far. I live about 5 blocks from the high school that I went to.
Mm.
So I'm a pretty much North Ender girl.
Okay.
So,
And what was it like growing up there in Grand Rapids?
Grand Rapids is a strange city, still is. It was at that time very white. I've read a lot. I'm a history buff, so read a lot of stuff about when I grew up and things I didn't even know that was going on. And it was pretty much segregated. The whites lived in one area and the blacks lived in another area. It was also very, very conservative. Jerry Ford lived here, grew up and lived here.
Oh, that's right.
We were his congressional district for many, 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 many years. And, my dad was a painting contractor. He had his own painting business and he worked out of the home. And my mom did his book work and all the things and answered the phone. So she was at home all the time. So I was really lucky as far as that goes.
So you mentioned earlier that you're a history buff.
Yeah.
And it was in a high school history class that you.
Yeah. Amazingly, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you remember about that class?
Oh, Mr. Daning, the teacher, he was the best there was, at least I thought so. I had him in 10th grade and 11th grade for history, world history in 10th grade, U.S. history in 11th grade.
And is that where you met Denny?
Yeah. He sat in the back and I sat up towards the front. And, we knew who each other was, but he started talking to me. He said, "Oh, I hear you and your boyfriend broke up." I said, "Yeah." And that was, maybe 6 weeks before prom. And then the next weekend, when I got home, my parents had a cottage at Big Star Lake, which is in Baldwin, about 90 miles north of Grand Rapids. We got home from the lake and he called. He said, he worked at the bowling alley. "Hey, you want to come up and go bowling?" And that's kind of how the whole thing started. My friends would say that he was just my soulmate. They'd say to me, maybe he died, early. You only had a couple years together, but you guys were really soulmates. And I think about that and I think, oh, that's kind of crazy. But he was just a great guy. He just was a great guy. We both were bowlers. So that was one thing that we both liked. I don't know. He was just easy to be with, easy to talk to. He was just Denny,
Yeah. Was he a good student?
No, he struggled in school.
Yeah. Was he athletic?
He was good at individual sports.
Hmm.
You know, he was, he liked to bowl. He loved to golf. Golfing was his favorite thing. In the summer, he worked in the winter he worked at the bowling alley, and in the summer he worked at the golf course in the pro shop.
How long was it after this first bowling date that you two were sort of a thing?
Well, he asked me to go to prom, which was about a month later. And then from then on, we were a thing.
That was it.
Yeah, that was it.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It was just like it was supposed to be.
So you were juniors at the time.
Yes.
So you had all of the following summer together and another year of school.
Right. All of our senior year.
Yeah. Can you kind of walk me through that period?
Well, yeah, I mean, in the summer, he worked at the golf course and he had Mondays off. So he came over every Monday and we would do something. Who knows what it would be, whether we'd go swimming at this. There was a lake real close, two small lakes close to my house. Or, we'd hang out in the backyard or, who knows what we would do.
Did you help him with his schoolwork?
Oh, yeah. Our senior year, yeah, especially English. And he had a really good, I think she was first or second year English teacher. And she told him, she came around and said, Joyce can help you as long as you tell her what you want to have, what you want to write, what you want to put down, she can do it for you. And so I really helped him with English. We were both in the same human physiology class, so we did a lot of that work together. Yeah, I would help him with it, whatever he needed. And what we do is at the bowling alley, there was a back room, and that's where the mechanics would stay. And then they'd bring them to go out and fix the machine or, get a stuck bowling ball or whatever. So I'd go up there and we'd study in the back room and I'd help him with his homework. We were also both in junior achievement. And so on Monday nights, we'd always go take the bus downtown because that's where the junior achievement offices were. We'd eat at one of the dime stores or one of the department stores.
So at what point did you two start seriously thinking or talking about a future together?
Actually, on New Year's Eve, he asked me to marry him. And I was only 17 years old.
Wait, New Year's Eve of
my senior year? Yeah. So that was it.
What did you say?
I just was in total shock. We were at my girlfriend's house. Her and her boyfriend and me and Dennis were there celebrating New Year's. And he just, right in front of them, he said, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Oh. And I said, yeah, me too. So that was, from then on. And then we got officially engaged when he was home on leave after boot camp. And
so when he asked you initially, did you have any idea at that point that he intended to go in the military?
No, and I don't think he did either.
Okay.
I mean, we were in that, it was 1967. So we weren't in that real draft thing. And Vietnam was not the real, there wasn't a whole lot going on or in the news or anything like that. And it wasn't until later that year when we were downtown going to junior achievement, he decided he wanted to go in and talk to the recruiters. We went to the Navy recruiter and to the Marine recruiter. So one of his friends said that he felt as though he needed to prove himself. Now, he never said that to me, but this was one of his very good friends. And he said, David said to me, Dennis told me that he really felt as though he needed to prove himself.
Oh man, the Marine Corps sure is the place to do it.
I guess. Yeah.
So you think that the draft had nothing to do with his
No.
I mean, he wasn't.
No, I really don't, because I don't, most people didn't, I mean, that wasn't, people weren't afraid that that was going to happen. It wasn't until really closer to the end of 67, 68 when the real draft stuff started.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you two became unofficially or officially engaged, and then
for graduation, he gave me a pearl ring instead of, and so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you graduated from high school. You are planning to get married eventually, and you know that he is heading to boot camp. I'm assuming he went to Great Lakes, or did he go to Paris Island?
No, he went to San Diego.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that would have been how long after graduation?
He went in July, after his birthday, a couple weeks after his birthday.
And how old was he on that birthday?
He was 19.
He turned 19 in July.
Right.
And left for San Diego.
Right.
And at this point, is there a wedding date set? Have you guys set a date?
No. No. We were just going to be together. I wish that is probably the one thing. Someone asked me one time, if you could change anything in your life, what would it be? And that would have been either I wouldn't have let him go, or we would have gotten married when he was home on leave. He came home in November, the first part of November.
Okay. Of 67.
Yep.
Okay. What do you remember about seeing him for the first time in November of 67? Were you struck by his appearance at all?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Marines look cool in their uniforms. I mean, sailors look nice in their uniforms too, but Marines really look good in their uniforms. And they, they're so straight and tall, and, it was just wonderful. It was just like, magic there. And it was like he was never gone. He was always there. So, and then
how long was he home on leave?
He left about 30. It was maybe 20, 25 or 30 days, because he left and went back on Thanksgiving. He was going back to San Diego, or back to Camp Pendleton, actually.
And how hard was that for you to say goodbye, to watch him leave for Camp Pendleton?
Oh, that was horrible.
Because you didn't know at that point when you'd see him again, right?
No, and we knew he was going to Vietnam.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, he got orders, so we knew that before he got home. He got orders before he got home from leave.
Oh, so the whole time he was home, he knew he was going to Vietnam.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's an important detail.
Yeah.
What did you know about Vietnam at that point?
Not a lot. I mean, you knew it was a war. There weren't a lot of casualties at that point. But
right before Tet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. About 3 months before Tet. I was scared. I could tell he was scared. We mostly talked about what we were going to do when he got home. That we were going to get married right away, and where would I go to school? How could I transfer? You know, all those practical things.
Did you guys consider at all? Did you discuss the possibility of getting married before he went to Vietnam?
Not really.
No. Yeah.
No.
And his job in the Marine Corps, he was a rifleman.
Rifleman. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
It's
you
just a
knew
grunt.
he was gonna be where the fighting was.
Yeah. And he sure was.
He left at Thanksgiving, and by Christmas he was there.
Right.
How often did you hear from him?
Well, every day I would go down to the phone in the Commons in college and call my mom. Did I get a letter today? And actually, I really did. He really was good about writing. It might have only been one page, but he wrote me a lot. I've got all his letters. He just would tell me, what was going on, mostly what he was thinking and what he was feeling.
What was he thinking? What was he feeling?
Well, he would tell me, well, he'd tell me about they'd been out, but he never quite told me all the details of how awful it probably was. He sent me pictures. He had a camera that he would send me film back, and then I would go get the pictures developed. He would tell me a lot about the guys that he was with. I mean, they were up on a hill. His company was up on Hill 861A. And so, other than, getting ambushed and all those awful things, and then he would tell me about what we're going to do when he gets home. A lot of them are about what we're going to do when I get home and how many days it was. And then he got wounded in March.
And what do you know about the circumstances of that injury? What happened?
It was shrapnel, but shrapnel bad enough that they sent him to the hospital ship, to the Repose.
The Repose.
Yes.
And did he write to you from the Repose?
Oh, yeah. He got to write more. And he called me.
He did?
Yeah. That was the greatest thing. Yeah.
So tell me about that. I can just imagine, what that must have been like for you. What were you
my
feeling
God.
when the call came in?
I was so excited. They had these like radio operators that they would get on this radio operation and operator, and then they would get a hold of a radio operator in the United States, and then they would then call the person in the US. Mm-hmm. So then you would say something, then you'd go over, and then they would, go. It was back and forth. Mm-hmm. We didn't get a lot of talking accomplished because it was, they didn't give you a whole lot of time.
Because you're relaying everything. But where were you? What were you doing when the call came in?
I was working.
Working where?
At the bowling alley.
At the bowling alley. And did he call the bowling alley directly?
Yeah.
And did you answer?
He called my parents' house. Uh-huh. My mom then gave the radio operator the number at the bowling alley. I knew he was going to call because the day before they had called and said he was going to call the next day. And so everybody at the bowling alley knew. So they let me go back in the office and talk. And so, of course it was at the bowling alley.
Sure.
Of course I got a job at the bowling alley,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So what do you remember about that conversation?
I just remember hearing his voice and just this really warm feeling, it was like he was there with me. And, of course I had to find out how he was and all that stuff. And just being able to tell him that I missed him and I loved him, and that to hear him say the same things. It was, yeah, it was great.
I'll continue my conversation with Joyce Washburn after a short break. The Registry is an online community created by VVMF that connects veterans of the Vietnam War era with each other. By signing up for the Registry, you can upload and share stories and images, connect with others who served during the Vietnam era, and connect your service with people you knew whose names are now on the wall. Join the community and preserve your legacy or a family member's by signing up today at vvmf.org/registry.
Hello, I'm Gary Sinise. Nearly 3 million Americans served in Vietnam, and more than 58,000 have their names inscribed on the wall. Those that pay the ultimate price in service to America. Some might ask why the Vietnam War still matters. It matters because more than 58,000 lives were cut short and their families forever changed. It matters because we should never forget how Vietnam veterans were treated when they came home. A lesson learned so that our current generation of veterans are treated with respect. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, the organization that built the wall, works to ensure that future generations will understand the war's impact. I'm asking you to help keep the promise the wall was built on. Never forget. Visit vvmf.org to find out how you can get involved.
On Veterans Day 1996, VVMF unveiled an exact replica of the wall that could be packed into an 18-wheeler and hauled to cities and towns all across America. Since then, the wall that heals has been displayed in nearly 700 communities throughout the nation, spreading the healing legacy of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial to millions of visitors. If you want to know more about this traveling exhibit and the tremendous impact it can have on a community, check out episode 15 of this podcast. The Wall That Heals and the Mobile Education Center that travels with it will be in Eureka, Illinois, July 13 through 16. To see the rest of this year's tour schedule and to learn how you can bring the Wall That Heals to your town, visit vvmf.org. And now, back to my conversation about Dennis Lobbezoo with his then-fiancée, Joyce Washburn. After he got released, I'm assuming he went back to his unit.
Yep, he went right back to the same group.
And where were they then?
They were up farther. Well, they were still at Quezon, but just before they moved out but they didn't go someplace safe. They went up closer to the DMZ.
He went to Con Thien, right?
Yes. Their base was not in Con Thien.
Okay.
They were outside. I'm assuming they were out in the bush somewhere.
In the boonies, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the day he got killed, they were up doing maneuvers up in Con Thien.
Okay. And what day was that?
That was the 6th of June.
So April, May, June. Did you hear from him during that period a lot?
Yeah. I would at least get one letter a week, if not two.
Mm-hmm. Anything change in the tone of those letters now that he'd been injured? Now that he'd been through the siege?
Probably he was probably more serious than he was before that,
I mean, by this time he's probably lost a few friends.
I would assume he's lost many friends.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't talk about that.
Okay.
He really didn't talk about that. It was more planning. It was more planning. Okay, we're going to get married. And I don't know, it was like, I'll be home on this day and we're going to get married like a week later. And, those really, I think that's what kept him going.
I just love the duality of that, right?
Yeah,
the
you're right. Yeah.
romance that you can't even describe, and then the very, very intense focus on the practical.
But I think that he had to have something that he could hold on to.
Sure.
And I think, I mean,
did you feel that at the time?
I think if I would have known how horrible it was there, I would have been a basket case. But I didn't know how horrible it was.
Well, I mean, by April, May, June of 68, it's all over the news. I mean, you're starting to see,
Yeah. And we had a classmate, he was a year ahead of us, who got killed in February.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to his funeral, and that was really, really hard.
Yeah. I mean, you're seeing casualties reported every night. Yep. Walter Cronkite by then has come out and said he doesn't think that there's a way to win.
Exactly.
All of this, you still didn't feel like you had a grip on how bad things were over there?
No, I don't really. I have since said this to people. I said, if I would have known really what he was going through, I would have been a lot more afraid and a lot more scared
than
I was.
I mean, you were a kid.
Yeah, I was 18 then.
Yeah, you were a kid.
I was 18.
But we didn't talk about how often you wrote him.
I wrote him every single day.
The whole time he was there?
Yep. From the time he went to boot camp until, till I found out he was dead. They were on patrol, and they were ambushed. It was a firefight.
Joyce shared with me a firsthand account of that firefight written by Jim Kaler, a PFC grenadier in the 2nd Squad, 2nd Platoon, Echo Company, 2nd Battalion of the 26th Marines. According to Kaler, who earned a Silver Star that day, 2nd Platoon was assigned to perform a security sweep to the southeast of Cantien. At about 11 o'clock that morning, their entire right flank, 3 squads of Marines, suddenly came under heavy enemy fire, automatic weapons interspersed with rocket-propelled grenades. The Marines took cover and hit back with everything they had, but they were dispersed and out of contact with each other. The fighting lasted for several hours. Late in the afternoon, running low on small arms ammunition and water, and not knowing whether any help was on the way, the 2nd Squad decided to go on the offensive. They attacked a North Vietnamese bunker complex, and Dennis was killed in the assault. Jim Kaler was one of only 3 members of the 2nd Squad to survive that day.
Jim told me later he apologized because he said he used Dennis's rifle after Dennis was dead because he needed a rifle. And I said to him, that's what he would have wanted you to do. He had no use for it anymore. He would have wanted you to take that rifle. I was driving across the bridge on the river, and all of a sudden, I knew there was something wrong. I just had this overwhelming, my whole body shaking feeling that there's something wrong. I kept on, driving home to my parents. That was also the day that Bobby Kennedy was assassinated. So I blamed my feeling on that because that was a crazy time. That was, that was crazy. And then he died on the 6th. Well, Vietnam it's across the international date line.
They're ahead of us.
So, yeah. So on the 6th would have been the 5th here. I really believed that I just knew that he was gone. But I didn't know what it was. So the 10th of June, the Marines came to his parents' house and told them. And then his father called and told my mom, who then told me.
It must have been hard for you, Joyce, because as a fiance, you have no status.
No.
The Marines, if you were married, the Marines would have come to your door.
Right. And I would have been able to choose things for him and do things. His parents really blamed me for this because if I wouldn't have been with him when he joined the Marine Corps and I was going to get to go on with my life, it was their way of coping, But so I had absolutely, I had no status.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. I mean, that was really, really hard. It still is. When I go and read names at the wall, all of these sons and daughters and used to be mothers, there's not so many of them left anymore. Husband or wives, most, because there's only a couple husbands, but wives, they all have the gold star pin. I can't wear a gold star pin because I don't count. And I think that I had as big a loss as they did. I mean, not as big a loss as a mom or a dad, maybe, but I did. I had a huge loss. I had a huge hole in my heart. Like I said, I lost my future. And I met this, I don't know if you've ever talked to Kim Pian, Pian. Her father died the day before Dennis did. And she was in front of me the first time we read names. And we have a friendship and we write back and forth. And when I need to have some support, I always write to Kim because she does. And she said, "No, Joyce, you deserve a gold star just as much as anybody else." So she gave me one.
Where was Denny buried?
He at Fair Plains Cemetery. It's about 1.5 miles from my house, maybe 2 miles.
When he was buried, it was very close to his birthday.
Yeah, pretty close. My parents sent me out to California. I had a really good friend that we were pen pals. And so they sent me out to spend time with her and to spend time with my aunt and uncle who lived in Merced, California. Mm-hmm. And I was with them on his birthday, which was that was very comforting. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't long afterwards. It's funny how people wanted me to do things and, well, like go to California for a couple of weeks, and go here and go there. Let's go to the movies, all sorts of, let's get on with your life, Joyce. So.
Well, I mean, the direction of your life, you had a pretty clear idea of what that was going to look like. You guys wrote to each other about it in some detail.
Oh, yeah.
And now all of that is, that no longer exists as a possibility. How do you cope with that at 18?
You just go and do things. And I never really got over it. I mean, I never had the opportunity to just go through that grieving because everybody had so many other things for me to do. And so about 10 years ago, maybe 12, Larry McCartney, which was one of the guys that would, when they were overseas, what they would do is they would trade names with people. If something happens to me, I want you to write to this person. Larry was one of the guys that Dennis gave my name to. So him and I wrote back and forth for quite a long time. He's from Toledo and he stayed in the Marine Corps forever. He was coming up towards Grand Rapids. So he said, hey, well, let's go out to supper. And we were just talking and talking about Dennis. And he said, because he had a really hard time with PTSD, Larry did. And getting through just life in general. And he said, I knew two people over there that I knew were going to be just fine when they got home. And one of those was Dennis. Because I said to him, I don't know. I mean, you see all these people that, how do you know that things would have been this wonderful, perfect, great relationship and life going on? And then that's what he said to me. And then he said to me, Joyce, maybe I had PTSD, but do you think that maybe you might have had PTSD too? Because you lost everything that day. You lost your whole future. And I looked at him and I just started crying. And I thought, that's what has been there all this time. That was always just below the surface. I date somebody and what would I think in my head? If Dennis came home, what would I do? And I always knew I'd go with Dennis. Always. I never, that was always, so that was, just kind of below the surface of my life the whole time. And once he said that to me, things just got crystal clear. And that was when I started doing things and making, going to the wall and reading his name. And, anytime there's something where you can put somebody's name in to be remembered or something, I always do that. And, went to the walls. The wall's only been here, the miniature wall's been here once, but they had what they called LZ Michigan twice, which was for Vietnam veterans to welcome them home. So I volunteered at both of those. And it was like, that was what my life, that was the purpose in my life. I had a lot, I have 5 kids and, 3 adopted and 2 biological kids. I've been married twice. I got married to the guy that told Dennis, if anything happens to me, I want you to take care of Joyce. So, of course, we had to get married because he was supposed to take care of me.
Oh, Dennis told him that.
Yeah, he told him that. Okay. He worked with him at the bowling alley. And it wasn't that I cared any less for Bob, because he was a great guy and he was the best friend a girl could ever have, but he was never Dennis.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever been him.
Right.
And he died when he was 45, and left me too. And, I thought, well, those two can go up there and just have great conversations.
Do you remember whether it meant anything at all to Dennis that his birthday was also Independence Day? Was that a thing for him? Did he think about it much? Did you think about it much?
I did. I said, he was, he was a hero that was, born on the 4th of July. Did it mean much to him? I'm not sure. I really am not sure. I mean, we always celebrated, but I don't know that it meant as much to him as it did to me after he was gone.
Yeah, I would imagine the fireworks must be an emotional, if you go to a fireworks show or see a parade or all of that, must be very emotional for you.
Well, the most emotional place I can go is to the wall. Mm-hmm. And I'll sit down there and look at my face in his name. And to me, that I can't be any place closer to him than I can be there.
How often do you go?
As much as I can. When I was in the Navy, I was at the Bureau of Medicine and Surgery, which used to be just up the hill across from the State Department, up at the old Naval Observatory.
You were stationed there for a while.
I was there for one of my active duty training. I'd go 2 weeks every year. So I was there. And then I'd go down and sit with Dennis and have lunch. And I was at Bethesda a couple of times, and then I'd go sit with him and go down there and because that wasn't really like you could go in 10 minutes and go, because Bethesda's a ways. And I'd been there many times, but late in the last 15, once I started reading his name, I went, and when you put Christmas tree ornaments on the Christmas tree. Have you ever been there when they do that? They have a Christmas tree every December, and people can come and put ornaments for whoever that's on the wall. So I've done that. So, I would say I'm there every couple years.
So you've been many, many times? Yeah.
It's one of my favorite places.
Is there anything you'd like to say to him or about him in honor of his birthday?
Well, I will definitely be posting my annual Happy Birthday, Dennis. I love you and always will to the wall. And thank you, all of you, for having that wall of faces, because that is it's wonderful. It's just a way to be able to, share, and I share things all the time,
Which gives me an idea. Maybe in honor of Dennis's birthday, we could all share something. If you're moved by this story, go to our website, vvmf.org, find the Wall of Faces, and then look up Dennis's profile by searching for his last name, Lobbezoo. Then scroll down to where it says, Leave a Remembrance. You can leave any message you like there, but whatever you write, don't forget to wish him a happy birthday. Joyce joined the military herself in May of 1968, just about 3 weeks before Denny was killed. She became a hospital corpsman in the Navy Reserves, which she figured was about as close as she could get to being a Marine. She went to boot camp not long after Denny was buried, and she retired from the Navy Reserves after 26 years. We'll be back in 2 weeks with more stories of service, sacrifice, and healing. But before then, in just 1 week, we're going to put out a little bonus episode. As it turns out, Denny's time on the hospital ship Repose is the jumping off point for a whole other amazing story. And we're going to share that with you in between this episode and the next. We'll see you then.
Seems the earth and sky agree that we